It has been nearly 1 year of chipping away at our cabin kitchen remodel here at the homestead. We went from a single pipe in the ground behind me to everything you see here, doing almost everything ourselves. I have just a couple tiny little tasks left, and then we are 100% done with the kitchen. Let's finish that up, and then I'll give you a tour. If you prefer to skip to the tour of the completed kitchen, I put a timestamp in the description. But if not, here's the final steps of the remodel. We wanted to add a light above the island to reduce shadows, but due to the nature of log cabin construction, we had to surface mount the wire. I used this Legrand wire mold raceway system and painted it satin black to be less of an eyesore. A few coats later and they're ready to install. This dangling wire was put here 40 years ago for a range hood that was never installed. I repurposed it for this light because we didn't want to waste a hot wire. It took a frustrating minute to figure out how to make the electrical plate of the light work with the surface mount cover, but I eventually got it. Okay, if this doesn't work, I'm selling the property and moving to a townhouse. Great, I think that looks good. This is it. This is what's going to decide if we're moving back into town now. You know, we went through everything we've gone through, and this is going to be the thing that breaks me. One year of DIY electrical work later, and I'm already throwing all of my insulation and wire trim on the floor, just like a real electrician. I nearly died. Just need a light bulb. Fancy.
Let there be light.
Does this work? Okay, that's nice. I'm sure no professional has ever done something like this. Alright, guys. Next, I installed under cabinet lighting since you could never have too many light options in the kitchen. The hardware included was comically cheap, so I swapped everything out for proper screws that will actually hold. I don't know if there is an elegant way to install these. There was a lot of struggling, if I'm being honest, but we got them. And the final step in the remodel, trimming the cabinets. I used hickory quarter rounds for the base trim and really took my time to ensure that all of the corner miters were snug. The woodworking part of this remodel is the one thing I actually feel somewhat competent at, having briefly worked as a carpenter in another life. I finally purchased this Milwaukee trim nailer, and let me tell you, I am never going back to my pneumatic nailer. Not having a compressor blasting in the other room is super nice. For the longest run of trim, I had to carefully scarf joint 2 pieces to span the entire length, but unless you crawl under there with a flashlight, I don't think anyone's gonna know. Except you, because I just told you. Almost done. I wasn't quite sure what to do about the exposed plywood edge on the toe kicks, but this is what I settled on. From changing the plumbing from top to bottom, completely redesigning all of the electrical and adding a bunch of power, adding many different light fixtures in different places and changing the ones that were here, completely redoing the layout of the kitchen, including adding an island, moving the stove, adding a range hood. This thing got a top to bottom remodel. Let me walk you through just every little thing that we did, starting in that corner. First up in our cabin kitchen tour, we have this cabinet up here. This is the cabinet where things go to die. That's the cabinet where my wife pulls things out for me. This is the little coffee nook, which is one of my favorite places. And we got undermount lighting here, which is great in the morning when you don't want everything full blast. Added a GFCI there. Regular cabinets here. Eventually we want to do shelves here, but I need my full wood shop to be finished before I can whip up something presentable. My wife and I have both always dreamed about having Lazy Susans. Now we have two. These are one of my favorite additions to the cabinets, but it added like $1,200 to the cabinet job. We have an equally very important part of the remodel here. This is vertical storage. I've never had a kitchen with vertical storage. So we got our baking trays, drying racks, and a couple of cutting boards. We tend to have a cutting board collecting problem. We just keep getting more, I don't know why. One thing I absolutely wish we did differently with this remodel is more vertical storage. If you think you have enough, you don't, double it. That thing has been full since day one, and it's great to have, but stuff kind of gets jammed in there because we overfill it. I'm going to show you the inside of some cabinets, so please forgive me. This is a lived-in kitchen. Right here, it's a little messy, but we have our under-sink lead filter right here because we do have lead solder on the original copper pipes. And we did some lab testing, and it's just too high of a lead content to be safe. I redid all of this plumbing, so feel free to tell me how wrong I did everything and all the wrong fittings I used. Originally, this sink was a single sink, and it had a drain line going straight into the side of the cabinet, and they just hogged a 2.5-inch hole through every cabinet to the corner, and then tied it through the wall into the laundry room drain line. It was kind of insane and horrible, so I just dropped that under the house, and it was so worth it. Yerba mate and Guinness, that pretty much sums up this remodel. My wife and I went back and forth a lot on what kind of sink to get. I really wanted a large single basin, and she wanted a full divider in the middle, so we compromised and got a half divider, and it's actually been pretty nice. We keep a drying pad here typically. We agonized over getting a good faucet that would look right in the space, and I think we did okay. Come up here to the window. I didn't get any good footage of this in the remodel, but I did fully replace both of these windows with modern vinyl with a much higher R value, and I recased the entire thing as well. The window was so fogged up in between the old panes, you could barely see out of it. So that's a really nice improvement to have as well. There was not a light here originally. There was a light there, but it was a single stainless glass that was so dim. So we installed a 6 LED track light, and then just a normal sconce here above the sink. These two are tied together, which I wish we got that on a different switch, but it's really challenging to switch things down at this level with log walls because all of your wiring has to be surface mount if you're doing that. So this wiring just runs through the floor to there, which goes to the normal kitchen switches. Oh yeah, one thing I did wrong in this remodel, I'm gonna point this out because I always point out the things I do wrong. I've never tiled before and did this whole backsplash as well, which sucked on log walls. Right here, getting close, you can see that. You see how there's a little crack right here along the wood? I knew this would be a problem when I did it, and I was just a little burned out and went for it anyway. When I was grouting, my grout got messy and I got into this crack, so I just sent it with the grout. This should have been silicone up against the wood, not grout, because grout does not flex at all. It's very hard, and wood is obviously going to expand and contract with moisture changes. So this wood contracted and just pulled away from the grout. Now I have this lovely crack right there. So eventually I need to scrape that out and silicone it. It's not really that big a deal for now. I guess when I said the kitchen is done, I lied a little bit, sort of, because there's still, you know, some rework to do from homeowner specials. Yeah, I mentioned this kind of already, but we did undermount lighting on all of the cabinets. They're all individually switched. The wiring's a little sloppy. I need to tidy that up just a little bit, but it's really nice to have that undermount. It just really reflects off the backsplash really nicely and just makes the whole space look quite nice. Let's talk about this range hood for a second. There was no range hood in this kitchen when we moved in. Well, there was a wire, which was right here. Where is it? Yeah, a wire that was right there for the old range hood. The range was supposed to be on where this island is. They never installed it, they just had moisture damage in the kitchen. So obviously we moved the stove, we needed a range hood. I installed a microwave style range hood, but that required venting straight through the log wall. So I cut a 4" by 10" hole straight through our 10" thick log wall with whatever tools I could come up with to make it work. I ended up drilling all the way around the perimeter of the hole, using a Sawzall to rough it out, and then a framing chisel and mallet to make it square. It came out pretty good, but it took me several hours late into a work night. Also, it was pretty comical when I put it up by myself. Let me show you what I got myself into when I was putting this thing up. I would like to apologize in advance. I was here by myself. This thing weighs like 40 pounds or whatever. It's really big, and there is a bracket to hang it on, and then you screw in some hardware. But you sort of need 3.5 hands to do it. So I had the microwave on a knee, and I had it propped up here while I was trying to screw in hardware and get in from the top here to do the bolts right here, and was doing the splits in my work boots on top of the counter. Woo! And it was bad. It was really bad. We got it up and it hasn't fallen off the wall yet, so I'm gonna call it a win. The old range was right there. It was one of those double wide, like cast iron with the vertical bread oven on the side. It was kind of cool, but it looked like a total electrical hazard. So we upgraded to a, whatever modern range, not very inspiring. All of our electrical is surface mount underneath the cabinets here, because you cannot run wiring, like I said, into log walls very easily. You have to surface mount everything. I considered doing those cool countertop electricals where you hit the little circle and it comes up very futuristic and you have plugs there. They're very expensive per plug, and it does take up additional counter space. We thought about doing surface mount in the backsplash, but that requires holes into your log walls and cutting more tile and just more complicated. So what I decided to do was just undermount on the cabinets with just electrical strips, and everything's tied into GFCI protected circuits, so it's all code, and it's been working quite nicely. The only drawback to that is you do, have cables hanging like that. Not that big a deal. It's just a little messy looking. I have always wanted a kitchen with a good, strong island, plenty of room for people to move around in a circle, not get jammed up, work with the stove, and still have room here. And just have a big, communal kitchen. And I love cooking for gatherings and hosting and having people over, and it's really fun when you're cooking and everybody just kind of gathers around the kitchen while you're working. It's always just a really comfortable vibe, but it sucks when your kitchen's tiny. So we got this huge kitchen, and this layout is just really conducive to having people in the kitchen, but still having plenty of counter space to work and room to move around without getting frustrated or stressed out. Speaking of, my wife loves to hang out while I'm cooking and stand around and chat, and she always ends up standing right behind me by accident, and I trip over her and we get frustrated at each other. So what we did with this island very deliberately was we added this little overhang here at the end with this lovely little stool, so that when she comes home from work, or we both come home from work and I'm cooking dinner, she can sit right there, chat with me while I'm over there, and we're just having a lovely time, and nobody's getting mad at each other, nobody's bumping into each other. It's delightful. Apparently island seating is very positive and very healthy for a strong relationship. Adding the island did introduce some unique challenges. Specifically, we had to get electrical and plumbing over to the island because this didn't exist before. Islands are required to have a GFCI protected outlet somewhere on the island, so we did that with the help of my electrician brother coaching us through. Got a nice GFCI there. That's the only plug on the island. I thought about doing another one over here, but not really that necessary. We'll just put the stand mixer here or the Vitamix or something, and it's great. The more challenging part was this mother freaking dishwasher. This dishwasher nearly killed me. To install a dishwasher on an island, it's lovely to have your sink here, your dishwasher here, you turn around, you load your dishes, it's great. And I knew it would be challenging. I didn't know how challenging it would be. We needed electrical, which isn't a big deal because we had our GFCI here already. We ran another wire up next to that and just hardwired it in onto its own circuit, following the same wire path. It was great. I'm not a plumber. I'm bad at plumbing, but I've had to figure it out with this house because we've done a lot of work. I had to run a water line here from the sink over here, so I just snaked a flexible water line over here and installed it. That was okay. the drain. Dishwasher drains are fussy. They have to be 10 inches above the base of the dishwasher. Otherwise, you will create a gravity-fed siphon and suck water out of the dishwasher while it's supposed to be running and burn up the motor of the dishwasher. To do that, I had to tie the drain into the sink drain over here, which was under the house. I had to run something 10 inches up the side here. So in the back of the baking cabinet here, that is my stub up for the drain, 10 inches up. And guess what's right below that stub up? If you guessed a joist, you are correct. Because if I went any further back, I'd be out the back of the cabinet. If I went any further forward, it'd interfere with the drawer. So it was a creative day by myself under the house. I think I crawled under the house something like 18 times back and forth, coming up and down to get everything functioning right. But the drain works perfectly with no issues. We don't use the dishwasher much, but when we're hosting those gatherings, like I said, it's really nice to have. And it hasn't leaked or drained or burned up yet. So I feel reasonably comfortable saying we did it right. To be honest, it's just a kitchen. I'm just really proud of it because we did all the work ourselves, almost. We hired a company to install the cabinets. We custom designed them with a designer and then had an installer come and do them. He was really skilled at doing log cabin installs, and we just knew he'd do a better job than I could. And we had them install the countertops as well. But everything else, all the trimming, the backsplash tile, installing all of the plumbing and the faucet, all of the electrical, all of the lighting, the new window, the trim for the window, the appliances, the wiring for the appliances and the plumbing for them, all of that, the flooring, everything else I pretty much did myself. So this is more or less a DIY kitchen remodel. I think it came out really nicely. I'm really proud of this. It didn't feel right to do a kitchen tour without cooking something, so here's some halibut piccata from a fish I harvested last season. Coat the fish in salt, pepper, garlic powder, and flour, then fry off in some butter. Pull the fish once golden brown and delicious, then deglaze with white wine. Add garlic, capers, cream, and Parmesan. Once it's thickened a bit, add some lemon juice, then send your fish for another swim. Add parsley, then plate or bowl, and enjoy. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.